I have this thing where getting drunk in games, I have never found it to be fun. Maybe Conker's Bad Fur Day. When you get drunk, you don't really have control over your left stick, let's say.
Yeah.
Like it goes like this. And it's, I mean, luckily it only lasts like a minute and a half or maybe 60 seconds. But it's like, why?
And it
I
doesn't do
don't,
anything else except getting you drunk. But smoking is better than drinking in this game.
you heard it here first. Smoking is better than drinking. Welcome everybody to episode 52 of New Game Experience. I am Juan Paulini. I'm sitting here with Crouching Tiger, Flying Crane, Christian Caroli. How are you?
Drunken fist. Doing
Drunken
well.
Bear. Yeah,
Doing
that's
well.
probably
Exactly.
another one.
Doing well.
Awesome. Glad to have you here. And the reason why we're throwing around all these weird names is because, yes, we've reached the point of doing the Spoilercast for Judgment. If you've been following this podcast, you know I've been crazy into Yakuza. And you know that I managed to convince this man over here to go into Judgment. And we've been enjoying it so much. We're getting ready for Lost Judgment, which comes out next week. And yes, we just wanted to get everything ready. And of course, we'll do another spoiler cast for Lost Judgment in, I don't know, about a month or so when we're done with it. And so, yeah, we're just to get into the conversation. We have, a couple of talking points and stuff like that. So before we get into spoilers, we will have this section where we talk about the mechanics. We'll avoid any specific spoilers, and we will give you like the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 spoilers begin. Let's say warning when we get to it. But yeah, Christian, give me like your general impressions of what you thought of the game, and yeah, like what do you feel about it?
A hidden gem.
Totally.
I didn't know about this game until this year. I missed it. I skipped it. I don't know. It totally went over my radar. Every single like outlet that I follow completely ignored this game. I don't know why, because I think that this is a really really good game. Had I played this game in 2019, well, I don't know about that, maybe because I think that I played it on the PS5 and the experience was super smooth. But let's just say this. I think that this game should be a lot more popular than it is, and people should be way more excited than they are about the sequel.
I can't agree with you more. I mean, this is something that I feel with the entire Yakuza series, which I will like include Judgment into it, even though Judgment's a spin-off. And I didn't find any recurring characters, at least in the main content. I did read that there's like a secret boss that also shows up in Yakuza 7, but I mean it's a total option thing, so it doesn't matter. But yeah, I mean, as soon as I started playing the Yakuza games, I got the same thing you got. It's like I have heard about Yakuza, like in passing. It's up until I think last year it was like a PlayStation exclusive-ish kind of series, and but like nobody ever sang much of their praises. I think it was bigger in Japan than it is here for kind of obvious reasons. But I mean, I think that they got a deserved boom with Yakuza 7 because it was like an Xbox Series X exclusive for a couple of months. And it was also a launch title. So it kind of forced people to play Yakuza 7 because it was one of the only games that there was like for next...
Like a dragon, right?
Exactly.
Yakuza like a dragon. Okay.
Correct. And yeah, I mean, but we're centering on this game, Judgment, which came out originally on 2018. And there was an amazing remaster, which I would encourage you to just get the remaster. I believe in Xbox Series X with smart delivery, you don't have to worry about it. I believe that whatever you buy, like you always get the Series X version. But in PlayStation, you do have to be a little bit wary of not getting the PS4 version. I mean, there's a little bit more confusion there. But I have seen comparisons, and I mean, it's not like night and day, but it's very, very like frame rate, which is something that I always gush about. I mean, having 60 FPS is such a godsend. And also the 28 version, I don't know if you've seen videos about it, but it has like this orange tint that is so
Yeah,
horrible looking.
they basically changed the color grading for to match it to the next version, which is gonna be like Lost Judgment, and it's better. It just looks better. It just looks more TV wise. It just looks cinematic. It adds up. I think that the photography of this game is great, and also the 60 FPS thing is massive. Like the fidelity of this game is really good. The attention to detail mixed with this 60 FPS that is so smooth, within the combat and like the cutscenes, it's really great. It's really great.
Yeah, particularly with the combat, they have these particle effects when you kind of hit with either the tiger style, which is like the one person, and then the crane style, which is like the one that kind of is like for crowd control, where you have a lot of enemies. The particles are, I mean, like they make the combat so flashy, so fun, so much more badass in my opinion.
I
And
never got bored of the combat. That's something I wanna say right off the bat. This game has a handful of mechanics. They are repetitive, but I didn't get tired of any of them. So I
yes,
think that that's also something that I think is a big achievement to the game.
yes, total big
This,
achievement. And also sorry, go on.
but I think we need to do like a small disclaimer. When you finish the game, it tells you like what percentage of the game you completed, and I could see myself going insane if I were to reach 100%, which I don't know where that 100% is, but I finished the story with a whimsical 22% in game. So
Yeah, it is crazy. Which, I mean, when you think about it, I always think that these optional things, because I mean yes, like you finished the story. Do you know like roughly how many side quests you did or something like
I
that?
think there were 50, but I think I did 12.
Okay, so let's say that the main story is about 20%, just to round it out.
Yeah.
I think that you already. Do you know how long it took you?
Oof. I think it was 24 hours, 20 hours. I think I didn't reach 30 hours. Maybe I did,
Okay,
but I didn't reach 40. It was not a
okay,
40-hour game. It was like a 30-hour game.
makes sense. So yeah, this game has a lot of optional content that you can decide to go into or decide not to. I mean, I think you can attest. I did dabble into it a little bit more. I ended up with 56%. But I mean, like the remaining, like when I saw the things that you had to do to reach 100, which is something that I enjoy on some games. Here you had to like play poker. I don't even know how to play poker. So I was like, hell no.
Blackjack. It's blackjack.
Also, oh yeah, exactly. No, but I think you have both
You
or
have
not.
poker?
Yeah, in the thing where you have
You
to go
probably have
into
poker.
the
You probably yeah, in the Lamant
this
in the
exactly.
casino. Yeah.
Yeah, you have. I believe you have both, but I mean, I'm like, I'm not gonna do that. I hate those kind of games. I mean, respect if you'd like it, but I wasn't gonna do that. And you also have these two arcades where there are like 5 mini games different for each arcade,
A
which
lot of
I
them.
yes, which is funny because they're all Sega games, so they kind
Yeah.
of included them all in here in a pretty cool way. And I believe Toshihiro Nagoshi, which is like the mastermind narrative designer of this whole thing, I believe he worked on Virtua Fighter before or something like that, if I'm not mistaken. And this game is in the game, so yeah. But and it's funny because it's all like very meta. Like you can find like it's called Club Sega, like
Yeah.
literally you have see it over there. And also it's funny they have some weird product placements in this game where the alcohol is actual brands. Like Beefeater is there, like the vodka. You have Asahi beer. So it's funny. It's like they did some
There's a lot of like attention to detail on everything, and I
100%.
think that I get like a lot of peace of mind knowing that that game has that unexpected death everywhere. Like it makes it feel alive. I think you also have like that whole social aspect where you can like get several girlfriends, and I thought that was just like hilarious that it also has kind of like this life simulator built in. That it's again pretty long, like it's a lot of content.
100%. Yeah. Actually, on the girlfriend topic, there is something that I wanted to say, which is when they first introduced the mechanic, I have no idea at what point they do it, but they say they give you like these tutorial messages, and it says you can message your girlfriend at any time. Like you don't have to message her like right away. Unlike real life, they include that in there, which is I laughed out loud on that because for you to put that in there, there has to be some sort of experience that this person who was typing it in had, you know?
Hopefully. Although maybe it's just sound advice. That's how Japanese people think.
Exactly.
I think that yeah, when it came to basically the core of the game, like it's hard to say like what the core of the game is. Like the core of the game is obviously like combat. I didn't find the combat very deep. I also like didn't find it shallow. I found it flashy, fun, serviceable, and at some points very challenging.
Yeah, I think that's true. I mean, some of the boss fights can get a little bit, intense. Also, because Yakuza has this thing where that you have this health bar for the boss, and it's actually like 5 within 1. You have to like
Yeah.
clear it out, and yeah.
I did find that at some points I was like another fucking bar, really? Can we
Yes.
just move on? And I think it was challenging. Also balancing wise, the healing in this game, it's kind of like all over the place. Like medkits are just a pain in the ass to get.
Yeah, and,
Like it's
and they're
just
very expensive, right?
super
Like, it's like
expensive.
20,000 yen, and I mean 20,000 yen is nothing to scoff at in this game.
No,
And
no, it's
yeah,
more. It's like 40,000 yen. Yen, the big ones, the ones
yeah,
that you
exactly.
buy on the sewers, which also you have
Y-
to go to the sewers to buy it specifically.
Yeah,
But I think that overall, something that really was very fun about this game in general was kind of like the animations. I think that the X animations. I don't know if that's like how it works in every Yakuza game, but here was just so fun trying to like pull them off because there was even at the very end I found like new ones and it was always like this is cool.
yeah. I wanted to give a shout out to two specific animations. One is there is a fight where you are fighting alongside Kaito, who's one of your your main partner in the detective agency, and they do like these team ups, which are totally amazing.
The
I don't know
team-ups are
if
great.
you
Yeah,
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 yeah.
the team-ups are great. Every time I could pull it off, I would try to. That and if you maxed out stores, they would support you during the fight, and they would do things like throw like a kebab, and then would just like stick it on someone's eye and stuff like that. That was really cool,
Yes.
and that whole dynamic it was just great. I think that like it really I was having like a lot of fun with this game in a way that I didn't think that if you were to tell me like what this game is about, I would have been like, not for me, most
Hmm.
likely. But then it definitely traps you. Like the story is there.
Absolutely, and we'll get into the story in a couple
But
of
yeah,
minutes.
exactly. But
Yeah,
we're
and
not spoiler territory yet. We're
yeah,
just we're
exactly,
just
exactly. We're
praising this amazing game.
exactly. And by the way, this game is the remaster version is $40, so you can get
Mhm.
this and not at full price. The next game will be, but this one you can get at this price to see if you maybe like it, or I don't know. You now with a PS5 you can wishlist it and see when it's gonna be on discount if you want to do that as well. So I mean the amount of recommendations I can give to this game are endless. Also, I'll say having played, I don't know, like I'm only missing Yakuza 6, so I have like an idea of where they have been in terms of quality and stuff. This is close to their best, like in terms of I think I may have liked Yakuza 2. I liked a lot. Yakuza 0 was really good. 7 was amazing, but this one comes pretty close to being in the top, at least top 3. I would say so. Yeah,
It has really
uh,
strong moments.
100%. And just to I have very little complaints with this game, so I will get those out of the way. And you, of course, welcome to bring any as well. So there is, and as I said, these are very very minor pickings, but I'll say them anyway. They have this mini game where you lockpick, and I always love lockpicking mini games. I don't know why. I mean, I'm that kind of guy, and I don't really know how to do that in real life, by the way. But they have this mini game, which is a total waste of time, where you have to like pick a key to go into some
You
doors.
didn't buy the skill where they tell you which key it is.
Yeah, but it's still a waste of time. It's like, why am I doing this?
That was weird, and also it was for places that they're open. Like it's like like the casino. Like, why do I have a key of the casino? Like, just let me in. Like, if they know
Ex-
I'm coming, it didn't make much sense. And you also had one for one of the family's houses, and he's like, why do I have this key? Like, why do I carry this around with me? This doesn't make any sense. And if I didn't have the perk, I would be like trying to pick the key, which but I think that's overall like the game does this in several layers. It's just that when it does it in these layers, it's like it's so weird. You know, like
Mhm.
it's like when you go and replenish your health with food. Like it's like why do I need to find a restaurant and like spend a menu? Why I can't buy two of the same things and when I sit down to eat easily? It's just fun. I know. So this is like I think it's like kind of like a philosophy thing, but
Yeah.
it was annoying, and also like the lock picking. I don't know if you played Kingdom Come Deliverance.
No, not yet.
Well, don't play it. The lock picking in that game is impossible. It's fucking impossible because that's one of the again we have to do this super realistic
I have it, yeah,
episode.
written down.
Basically, it's the goal of the design there is like, oh, it's lock picking. Lock picking is hard, so that's why it's hard in this game. It's like, well, it's a fucking game, you know. And I think it applies the same thing here with the lock picking here. For me, it was way too difficult for what it was supposed to be. Like it didn't like it was just a timer, and then whenever you failed, it was just like a game over screen. Um, so I think that like these mini games are kind of like okay, but also like if you fail them, they were pretty disruptive.
Yeah, I think I know which ones you mean. The ones where you need a wire that if the wire breaks, you're
Yeah,
fucked. I think those are, yeah. I think
yeah.
that, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I enjoyed them because I don't know, these kinds of little things. First of all, I don't think they abused them. They didn't put them in way too much. In fact, I think they underused these mini games. Although there is like a side quest where you have to go in and do them, and well, whatever.
It
But
happens. It happens all the time. You know that you see something and you think, "Oh, this is going to be huge," because
mhm.
it's massively implemented, and then it never pops out again. And it's like, why did they build this? Then like this whole log picking mechanic with the wire, and then just use it like four times. You know.
I totally agree. And I actually, when I look back upon my experience with Yakuza 7, the whole thing where when you're chasing somebody in this game, where, like you have to press some buttons and stuff
Yeah.
like that, you do that once in the beginning of Yakuza 7 and never again. Maybe there is like a side quest that I missed where you do that again, but I was like, this is a cool mechanic because those chases I liked. But why do I never do this again? And so it was fun to do this back here. I do have to say, the tailing missions, I hated them. They were way too
All of them.
long. I mean, they were always so long, man. Whenever I got one of those missions, I was like, okay, podcast moment. And I was just like, be playing there. So because, I don't know.
I found them serviceable.
Mm,
Like I was never like, oh, this is like the first one. I was like, oh, I'm a detective. And then it's what you're saying. Like some of them were long, nothing was happening. They all behaved the same. I think there was one at the end that was just like half an hour chasing some fucking random guy.
yes.
And it's because it doesn't get like that's the thing with that mechanic. It's a very horizontal mechanic. Like it doesn't get any more complex, so it can only get longer. So
Exactly. And the only good thing I would pull from all this that we're saying with all these minigames is that it shows that these guys at RGG Studio, they have a good initiative to experiment. So maybe they bring in this mechanic, they work on it. I have no idea how many hours, and they say like, okay, this is cool, but it doesn't really fit. So even if it's just once in the game, we're just gonna put it in there, and that can like work or it can backfire. And we already see like examples of both in
yeah.
this same game. So I do think that's good in the long run, right? So yeah, the only other things that I could find that were annoying was there is this mechanic when you go deeper into the game where there's this percentage of the gang which is called the Kyo.
The Kyori gang.
No, the
No,
Keihin
the
gang.
Gang. Yeah, like I
Yeah.
didn't get that as well. Like every time they would pop up, it was just like really. and overall they were all over the place. They were just cumbersome, and it was the same dynamic, and the payout was kind of weird because the payout for that is just some items that when you buy the PS5 edition, the remaster edition, you get some unlimited items that I tried not to use because they kind of break the game. Like they make it way too easy, which I don't understand. Why would you give someone unlimited? It's kind of like almost like a pay to win DLC.
Yep.
So it's like I didn't get that at all, and I didn't. And the fact that you have that makes fighting this gang the more ridiculous because it's like I already have unlimited amount of power ups. Why do I want this power up here? You know, so
Yeah.
it didn't add up.
Yeah,
So
it makes absolutely no sense. Oh, so
and
sorry.
they're not skippable, by the way. Like they this is what happens is like they flood the city with encounters, and you can't really avoid them. Like you have to kick their asses to get them
Yeah,
out of the way.
and also the annoying thing is that whether the percentage is at 100, which is like the most urgent, and or whether it's 1, the amount of enemies is the same, which
Yeah.
is very annoying because it's like 5 times more encounters than what you would if you weren't in this thing. And as you said, you can't skip it, you can't do anything about it. You have to just like maybe run away. But running away is more cumbersome than fighting the guys. So it's like, yeah, that was a little weird. I have this thing where getting drunk in games, I have never found it to be fun. Maybe Conker's Bad Fur Day, and yeah, okay, let's give it to Conker. But never like getting drunk. Like in this game, they had this thing where, as we talked about before, you can go into restaurants, and one of the completionist mechanics is ordering everything on everybody's menu, which is something that I enjoyed and I did it. And one of the, of course, you have a couple bars, and in the bars you have to drink. So when you get drunk, you don't really have control over your left stick, let's say.
Yeah.
Like it goes like this, and it's I mean, luckily it only lasts like a minute and a half or maybe 60 seconds, but it's like, why?
And it doesn't do anything else except getting you drunk. If you have the skill for fighting drunk, then you can like unblock an X animation.
Mm-hmm.
But smoking is better than drinking in this game. Like that's all I say because it gives you like character insight and replenishes your X gauge, and it's just fucking cool.
You heard it here first. Smoking is better than drinking. And then I didn't find any like game breaking things. Of course, I mean that would be too much to say. But I did find this weird moments where you have the objective, which is wait for X person to call you, and it's like, okay, I'll wait. In the meantime, let me do some side quests or some whatever side things, and they're all disabled. So it's like, okay, so I'll just sit here then. And I found that to be a little stupid. Maybe it was a mistake or they overlooked something.
No, I think it was like that. Like at some point of the game, you can like call your girl. I think I called my girlfriend during that time. Okay. So yeah,
that worked.
I had nothing to do, so I called my girlfriend, and I think that worked. But then you get the call, and then you keep going.
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't take too long. It takes like maybe 5 minutes, but it's still like, why wouldn't you let me do whatever I want in the meantime? It doesn't make any sense.
I do have a complaint as well regarding the game, and I guess like it goes over to the healing mechanics.
Mm-hmm.
I think that if like it can be very frustrating to try to heal in this game, and also like the combat, because there are two things. Like the combat, even though it looks smooth and it feels good, and like you kick some ass, it's hard to master. And even when you master, there's like I don't think the word is RNG. Like I don't think it's like unpredictable, but I never felt like I was untouchable or shit like that. So it feels a little bit RPG that you will take damage, you will need to heal, and then healing involves you buying a bunch of stuff in the stores, in the supermarkets, and bringing food with you, and then going to a restaurant to heal, which it's part of what makes this game great. Like it kind of works at some points, and then at some points it doesn't work, and then it punishes you if you try to go for the strategy of basically buying medkits. Medkits are super expensive, so I think I was never like super comfortable taking damage in this game.
Yeah, I think I know what you mean, because sometimes you punch somebody and that kind of interrupts their punching mechanic, like animation. but sometimes it doesn't. So it's like, how do I know when this happens and when it doesn't happen? And now I'm playing Ghost of Tsushima, which has a much more precise combat, and you kind of see the difference. And I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And I did forget to say something. Any game, and when I say any game, I include From Software, and I'm looking at you. What's his name? Miyazaki.
Miyazaki.
Any mechanic that disrupts the size of my health bar, I hate it.
Yeah.
I hate it totally. And in this game, they have this thing where sometimes the boss does like a Super Saiyan thing, and if he punches you, it halves your thing, or however times you get hit, and I hate it.
You can only heal that with medkits or going to the doctor, and that's way too disruptive. Like I also hated that, especially in the end game. It just, once guns start appearing, that's the other thing about this game. Like in late game, it introduces some mechanics that they definitely kind of like frustrate you, which they kind of make sense because like the stakes are high, the enemies have to get tougher, but some things about the combat were just inconsistent. Like I didn't know how to pull off some combos. Like there were some combos that were like jumping off the walls and they were not that predictable. Like and I did spend like 20 hours in this game. Like I don't think that more than 20 hours. Like I don't think that it was a game that I was like, on purpose saying like, oh, it's too hard. No, it's just like I didn't feel like I was getting better, even though I was really trying to understand like how the combat works. But it's great. Like it's still flashy. Like when it works, it works. But it was always a bit tense fighting enemies.
Exactly, which is something that I appreciate a little bit, because I do think that whenever a combat is too easy, I do get bored. Yeah. And maybe that's also Miyazaki's fault. I don't know what to do with you, man. But like, for example, as I said, I'm playing Ghost of Tsushima now to the Iki Island expansion. And that is a game that I was getting a little bit bored last year with the combat. And when they released the lethal difficulty, that's when I said, okay, now the thing clicks. Yes, because I mean, I just have this thing where, okay, I'm getting hit with swords and I'm just like, okay, that's fine. I don't know, something just.
But you think when you played it like when it came out, right?
Yeah.
So you think with the lethal difficulty, like they are the enemies stronger?
Or I'm not sure. I think that the damage output is bigger, but I think the enemies maybe stay the same. Because the other thing I do like about that game is that you don't really have to like hit them too much for them to die. I think that's kind of the cool thing. For like, and that is something that this game does well narratively, but not well mechanically, which you mentioned, which is the guns. Like, guns have an impact. Like whenever there's a cutscene and somebody brings a gun, it's like, fuck, we're fucked. Like everybody, like, because death, or in this case, like death or guns have a weight. Yeah. Which, for example, when you look at a game like Uncharted, it doesn't make sense that a gun would have any weight because you've been shooting people like for 30 minutes, and then somebody puts a gun and says, I don't know. It's
here when someone has a gun, there's no narrative dissonance there. On the contrary, like if there's a gun, it's just like there's a gun in a room. Yeah, exactly. Which I think it's what makes the Yakuza games cool. Like no one, like the cops, thunder. The cops don't give a shit until someone pulls out a gun. So everyone's like fighting in the streets and killing each other, mortally wounding each other. But no guns, we can't do anything.
Yeah, it's weird, but it's cool. I do like that a lot. So we are done with our complaints. We're now gonna gush about this game. I don't know how long, but we're gonna go into the narrative, which is of course the best part of this game. I mean,
spoiler territory.
Exactly, spoiler territory begins. You had almost half an hour of conversation, so please go play the game and then come back. We will welcome you.
Save for later.
Exactly.
We're waiting. Okay, you're back. It's been a month.
Exactly, it's been a month. So welcome back. We've grown beards and everything as well. So when I've listened to Spoilercast before, I don't really find it that enticing to go like beat for beat the story and all that, because I think that's, in this case, it would take us like, I don't know, 5 hours maybe.
Exactly. It would take us forever. because like if something happens in this game, it's like everything happens. Like this game is just, it feels, something good about this game is just not feel like a single story. It feels like kind of like a book or a TV show.
Hmm.
It feels like you're playing something that it's even like longer form than most games from this caliber. Like you would expect the story to be like this, like the traditional narrative, but a lot of things happen in between each chapter. It feels like kind of like a TV episode to some extent, and it has a really unique rhythm.
I totally agree, and I think that the web these guys weaved is not so complicated, but it's complicated enough for it to be very uh like a good accomplishment in my in my in my
Yeah,
in my opinion, and they did it well. Like everything ties up really well. I didn't really find at the time any plot holes or anything. Not that I was looking for it anyway, because I think that's kind of looking for reasons to complain, and I wasn't really kind of trying to do that. So what we're gonna do is instead, like, we're gonna like go character by character, and we're gonna go not all over the place, I would say, but we're gonna go a little bit back and forth, just to try to cover everything that we can. And of course, we're gonna come up short somehow because this is a 40-hour to 20-hour game. So yeah, I mean, somebody's gonna have to not make the cut. So we begin with our protagonist, which is Takayuki Yagami, a former lawyer, now detective.
Yagami-san.
Yagami-san. By the way, something really cool, I think, for this spoiler cast, I played the game entirely in Japanese. You played it in English, so that will give us also some a little bit of like different perspective on maybe some aspects of it. So I think that'll be good. So what do you think about Yagami? Like in general sense, we'll go into details as we go on.
A true protagonist. Like something that this game does is that it gives the protagonist a lot of agency. Like he's not just kind of like an avatar for you where everyone tells him what to do. He figures out stuff. He has values. He's relentless. He doesn't give up. He has a pretty cool origin story where he show him how things have not come his way, and his goals are not like that typical. Like this game could have been like, oh, I want to be a lawyer game, but that's not what the game is about. The game is really about Yagami trying to solve a murder case, and he's a really good lead. Like he is effectively someone that not I don't want to like it's not because they're both Japanese, but like it's kind of like in the same line that Jin Sakai, like from Ghost of Tsushima, that they both are fighting against something that's bigger than they are, and they will not give up, and they will have the ideas of what to do, how to get there, and they will stand their ground. And it's very, and I think that in a way that's very characteristic of a good lead. So for me, he was by far one of the strongest parts of the game and the core of the experience.
Yes, yes. I mean, I absolutely agree. I think that he is somebody you can I mean, you get attached to him because you think he's a badass sometimes. He's wrong sometimes. He gets his ass kicked sometimes. Like he goes through a lot in the game, and I think that his backstory is one of the things that I like the most because so you'll correct me if I'm wrong, and we'll try to piece this together. So his father was also a lawyer, but they were very different kinds of lawyers. Whereas his father's last case was this guy who I believe he defended a rapist and a murderer, and then the father of the victim goes in and kills both Yagami's parents. So
Yep.
I wrote it down here. He's like a lawyer Batman in
Yep.
in that sense. Like he goes home and he finds like blood all over the place. Both of his parents are dead. So of course, like I believe he was a teenager when this happened. I mean,
Yeah.
they don't really specify, but yeah, he was like a teenager, and so he starts to like lash out, and I think that the way he comes into contact with Kaito is at first they kind of try to beat the shit out of each other. Like they're
Yeah,
always
because I think he was gambling or some stuff in a Matsugani joint, and that's when Matsugani takes him under his wing. Like it's one
exactly.
of his kind of like father figures.
Exactly, and that's the other thing I love, that he has these two father figures, which are Matsugane, who's the head, the patriarch of the Matsugane family, I think this is funny, and it's good to like clarify it. It says they always say this both in Yakuza and in Judgment. They say Matsugane family, Tojo clan subsidiary. So, and I think this is funny because the word subsidiary, I mean, when we think about it, it kind of sounds like a business. And that is how, according to the games, that is how the Yakuza operates. Like, they have this Tojo clan, which is like a big, like the biggest, let's say, conglomerate of families of the Yakuza is, of the, I think it's the Kanto region of Japan, which is where Tokyo is located. And then they have on the other regions of Japan, there's like other big ones, which you have the Omi Alliance, which is one that comes up really frequently in Yakuza and everything. And in this game, I believe they kind of mention it in passing, the Omi one, but the other one that's really important is the Kyorei, the Kyorei clan, I believe it's called. And because, I mean, we'll get into it a little bit later, but yeah, so this is Matsugane. He's the head of the family, one of as we said, Yagami's father figures, and he actually puts him through law school, which I think is super important, super integral to the relationship they have, and you know how important he is to what ultimately happens in the story. And so yeah, what else do you want to say about Mitsugu Matsugane, who is the head of the family?
I don't know. Like I think he kind of like ties the game together when it comes to like why Yagami is doing what he's doing. Like he adds the complexity of, okay, it's not like all the Yakuzas are bad. Like it's all a system, and I think that's where, like, I think that's why this game is good when it comes to the story. Like it's not as, oh, these are the bad guys, these are the good guys. It's just like it's just part of a very articulated system that exists within this show, that it is like the Japanese government. It's all, everyone has their place in the hierarchy, and ultimately that's kind of like what the game is about. So it's not like these are the bad guys. I mean, there's obviously a bad guy, which is in voiced by Matthew Mercer, but like at the beginning, it's very open mystery, and having these characters that they walk for Yagami through the whole show, it's just pretty cool. Like it lands emotionally.
Yeah, I love that you mentioned that because I was thinking it as well. Like the fact that both for Matsugane and for Yagami, it gives them more nuance. The fact that they're so connected, because they are, if you would look at it from like black and white, they're very on very opposing sides of the society. Like
Yeah.
one's a criminal and one's was a lawyer, and now is a detective, which is a little bit more morally ambiguous, but it's still on the good side, let's say. And but there's still like there's love for there. Like, there's a relationship there, and I think it's amazing. And then we have the other father figure, which it's another character that I think is really interesting, but we don't really get to see a lot about him, which is Ryuzo Genda. He's the chief attorney of the place where Yagami used to work, which is
Again, the law office.
Genda Law Office. And yeah, he's very solemn. He's always like the voice of reason of the law side, let's say. And yeah, as I said, I love this character. I wish I could say more about him because we don't really get that much. I believe he was a friend of his father, if I'm not mistaken. Yes. So what
He knew his father, and he knew what kind of lawyer he was. So he's the one keeps telling him like, you don't want to be that kind of lawyer, and that's kind of like why he drops out of, like, that's why he stops doing the lawyer work, because basically he realized that he defended a murderer, and he didn't want to do that because that's what his father did and where he got him. So
Yeah.
and that's kind of like how the whole thing kicks out. It's like you have information here and then you have information here, which are the murderers. And the fact that it's like he's kind of like the big lawyer, like Papa Bear. Like he's like, like when he says something, he accentuates very dramatic points of the story, because it means that if Yagami is not taking his advice, it has to be dangerous, which is something that only mature stories do. Of course, that this is dangerous. Like the name of the game is Judgment, and you're kicking ass and doing shit. But when he comes in and he's like, Yagami, you have to stop doing this. It's like, wow. And Yagami's like, I'm not. I will never stop. You're like, wow, this is intense. And it's in a conversation, which, again, it's not common for video games. Like, if anything, you would find out through the action in more traditional games. You're just like, oh, this is intense because more things are exploding. And in the end, here's the opposite. It's like the game has its dramatic peaks when everyone's like, "Hey, Yagami, you don't want to go there. I'm telling you, you know." And
Yeah,
he does it very well.
I love that you say that because there is one moment between the two of them where they both have like this shift where you can see that for Yagami, Genda has been this like throughout his life, like I don't know, maybe they've met for like 15 to 20 years or something like that, and that he's always been like the voice of reason. And there's this one moment where Yagami, I don't remember what happens, but that's not really important. Yagami disagrees with what Genda is saying, and Genda like listens to that, takes on the weight of seeing that he's disagreeing, and then Genda like says, "Okay, this is wrong, but here's what we're gonna do," and they kind of still agree in the end. I mean, they still disagree, but they're all on the same page, which I thought that was a pretty cool moment between the two of them. So there is this other character that I wanted to go because I think that he's one of the best ones. He's really he's one of my favorites. Masaharu Kaito. He's your as we said before.
Kaito-san.
He's your Kaito-san. He's your partner, not in crime, because he is. We're both exactly, and his backstory is also pretty interesting. He's an ex Yakuza from the Matsugane family, so he's kind of involved in how Yagami and Matsugane came to know each other, because as we said before, Yagami kind of like got into these things with gambling and kind of tried to beat up Kaito, and Kaito was always bigger and better than him, and you can kind of see that moment as well. And he's tough, he's funny, he's a loyal guy, and the way he gets kicked out of the family is also pretty interesting. Falls a little bit into the main story. But what do you think about Kaito?
I think he's kind of like so fun. Like, I God protect him. Like that's all I can say. He is. I don't know who voiced him. I should look for the cast of in English, because I look for the cast there. But
I'll send you a link. I have it here.
You have it there? Okay,
Yeah.
I'll check it out, because whoever did the voice, like, there are two different experiences when playing Judgment. I think that the voice acting in English, it's incredibly over the top. Like, because the whole story, the things they say to each other is always like, "What are you doing? Like, you think this can happen?" Kind of tone. And Kaito is just like incredibly over the top, but he's, as you said there, like, he's just so loyal, so cool, so well. I don't know. I think he's one of the he's the one that makes the action like ramp up, and always whenever there's a fight, he always like pumps it up, like, "Yeah, let's go" moments, and they're just great. I'm trying to see like
Yeah.
who voiced it. Okay.
Oh, I have it here.
Crispin Freeman. Okay, I see it.
Crispin Freeman. Yeah,
Crispin
exactly.
Freeman.
I don't think I've heard, I mean, maybe if we looked in his IMDb, we're definitely gonna find something, but I don't recognize his name too much.
Yeah, me neither. But he's like one of these, he's one of these kind of like Matthew Mercer crowds, like, where he's voiced a lot of video games and stuff like that. So he's kind of legendary. He he actually he was in Outer Worlds. He also does a lot of the voicing in Demon Slayer. So I've heard him before, but he does a great job, and it's incredibly over the top. And I think that the cool thing about Kaito is that he's not that invested. Like, not many bad things happen to him, yet his experience is kind of like tied to the core of the story, and everything is whipped in together very nicely. Like why Yagami stopped practicing law, why Kaito lost his, I don't know, like membership, like why he was fired from the clan. Like, everything is connected in this game, and I have to say that obviously it shows that it's everything is trying to be whipped in, but with Kaito, he just made sense. He was very optimistic. He was an uplifting character, and he just kicked ass. I Something I liked about it is like the aesthetic, because he felt like a true Yakuza guy, smoking, and like, with the fancy shirt, the plaid shirt. I don't know, it's just fun.
Yeah, and also like graphic work. His shirt is a very shiny. It looks amazing. Like it's one of the things that I was like, wow, this looks cool. Yeah, I love Kaito as well. Like, he's super fun character to have. He's always, like you said, the one who brings it over the top in terms of the action. He's a little bit of a hothead. He's like, no, let's
Yeah.
kind of beat these guys up. And yeah, I enjoyed him pretty much. And one thing that you mentioned was pretty interesting. Um, like I think that it's very a pretty cool contrast to our society, watching the Japanese, like the way they revere. I don't know if it's necessarily their elders, but their superiors,
Yeah.
because you have, like you mentioned, him being kicked out of the Yakuza, which is a very big deal. Like it's not like, oh, I got kicked out of this one and I can go maybe to another one. No, no, no. If you get kicked out of the Yakuza, you're done, and you can never come back. You become a civilian, and when you become a civilian, that's like, okay, you're out. Like
You lost your badge. Yeah.
you lost your badge. Yeah, it's a pretty big deal. But still, when you see things happen to Matsugane, which I mean, spoilers, he gets killed by the mole, and when you see Matsugane come in, like there is this respect coming, and you see this also from another character, which is Hamura. I don't remember his first name. Let's just look it up here. Kyohei Hamura, who is another one of the antagonists, a pretty interesting character as well. Like he is like buddy with Kuroiwa, who's the other main bad guy. But when something happens to Matsugane, you see the impact that this has on him. Yeah. Even though within the family, he's the one that earns the money and he's the one that's keeping the family together.
And he wants to take over eventually. Like he wants the job. I think that the attention to detail in those dynamics is what definitely makes this game like a top contender for Game of the Year for me, because it's just when he dies and they actually say like, okay, let's have a funeral, and then it's a proper funeral, you know, with the right flowers, they dedicate some time to it, and you know, it's what you're saying, like everyone goes to see the funeral, even Hamura goes. And that whole plot, I think that there are different sections of this game that I think that they were really great. And without a doubt, for me, the one that shines the most is the whole, well, the Yakuza part of it. I think that the way that everything is interconnected and the way that everything kind of like blows up in the Matsugane house, which also has one of the best action pieces. You know, when I think it's Yagami, he jumps out, he does a flying kick out of the window, and then the camera goes with him. It's just fucking amazing. Like for me, that was the moment when I said like this. No matter what happens now, this is just kicks ass. Like I don't know where the story is gonna go, but just there, it's just incredible. And I think that if anything, I think that it would have been cool that the game didn't warp out so far away from it with the whole 89 thingy, because I think that it's just, I don't know, like I think that for me was kind of like the weakest part of the game, okay, of the story, but still strong. But just like the whole Yakuza dynamic, and not only with the elders, also between them, like Shono, and then the way they interacted with Kaito, even though like Shono basically had Kaito kicked out, and like the whole dynamic between them, it was so complex that it's just fun. It was like a TV show. It was like a cool story.
Oh, sorry,
No, Shono. Higashi. I was reading the character, and it's like Shono is the researcher. He's the fucking fucking idiot.
He's a fucking asshole. Yeah. No. Higashi is also pretty interesting. I mean, he doesn't really have that big of a role, but I still loved like what he does, and like he gets put in a very bad situation by Hamura and all the conspiracy thing he's doing to take over the family. But eventually he comes over to your side, and I love, you know, one thing that's pretty common in these games, and I don't know if this is a Japanese thing or whatever, but there is a recognition of, okay, you and I, we can be brothers, we can be lovers, we can be family, we can be whatever. But in this moment, we have to kick the shit out of each other.
Yeah.
And that is gonna happen. Somebody's gonna win. And after that, we're gonna continue to be whatever we were before. Like in the West, that doesn't happen. In the West, you kick the shit out of each other, and then you become enemies for life or whatever happens.
Yeah, it's like you're out of the show. Yeah, that's one thing. Like I think that here, when people fight, they still exist. They don't go anywhere. And I think that that's also true in the West. It's just that that's not true in the Western movies. You know.
Exactly.
Like if you fight with someone, and that's why fighting with someone, like when you win a discussion with someone that you love or someone that you work with, it's not only you win the discussion, is you could also see it as someone that you love lost a discussion and now has to sit around and watch you win, or like someone you work with is feeling like a loser. It's always that dynamic that I think that this game is pretty aware of. Like everyone keeps cooperating and things keep happening until obviously people get killed, and all the I think that all the relationships are very complex.
Yeah, 100%, and they're so masterfully executed. I mean, well, I mean, I I think you could like take a shot at every time I gush about this game, and you'll be drunk in very soon. So let's try to get into like the meat of the plot itself with some of these characters. So as we've kind of touched a little bit upon, Yagami was a lawyer. He defends this man called Okubo Shinpei, or is it Shinpei? No, yeah, Okubo Shinpei.
Okubo,
Yeah,
basically Okubo. Call him
exactly.
Okubo.
Okubo Shinpei, who's voiced by the way by Yuri Lowenthal, who does also, I mean, many games, but he's also Spider-Man in the Spider-Man Marvel Sony game, and he gets accused, not to go into the details necessarily, he gets accused of murdering this dementia patient that was at the ADDC. He was in ADDC, who's the Advanced Drug Development Center, um, where so yeah, he's accused of having murdered this person because he kind of reveals where the body was buried. And so, long story short, Yagami gets him acquitted. I don't remember how he does that. Oh yeah, I think Shono's testimony was very
Yeah,
shoddy, right? Yeah,
basically he guarantees that there was no way that he could have seen that person was there, so that so they can point they can point Okubo to the scene of the crime, and that gets him acquitted. Like his
exactly.
testimony falls short because he did have kind of like a motive, and he was the one that hit the body. And yeah, that's very much like one thing that it's important about this game. And they say like 99.9% of trials in Japan end up with prosecution. So, well, not prosecution, with a sentence. Like
Hmm.
people are found guilty because like there's a lot of paperwork before, and there's a lot of bureaucracy. So it's kind of like a big deal to acquit someone. And then if you fucked up, it's not 99% because um like lawyers are too good. It's 99% because you are not supposed to kind of like have a trial. Like you're supposed to like if there's a trial, it's because there's a crime. And then if someone acquits someone else, it's not like, oh, he's a hero. It's like, watch out, because we want this to be 100%, because that means that the system is perfect. So that's why he drops out of law. It's because, oh, you fucked up. You're not helping find all the people that's and I think they do say that it's not the job of the lawyer to find someone innocent. It's just to find enough evidence that they're not guilty. So he failed at his job, and that's why he's no longer a lawyer. So it's a very very different system than in the West, because in the West, if you free someone and then they turn out that they are indeed killers, it's like, well, who gives a shit? Like that's your job as a lawyer. So which is not the case in Japan.
Yeah, and also in the West, you have this thing where everybody sues everybody for anything,
Yeah,
and it seems like from what you're saying, it's more serious over there. They kind of
yeah.
only go to trial when it's like a serious thing. So yeah,
Actually,
I think that's awesome.
Persona 5 starts because, and this is kind of it adds up because this is the whole core of the game. It's not because I want to talk about like law and stuff. It's like the institutionality. Persona 5 starts that you break up like an old dude that's trying to hit on a young lady, and then you kind of like push him, and then he falls, and he says, "I'll sue." Like that, he says, "I'll sue," and then your life is fucking over, because
Hmm.
you can't. That's the thing. You can't go to trial, because if they sue you and you lose, you're done. You're now a convict. So just towards suing, actually in this game as well, they have a lot of impact. I think that there's one mission where Yagami is just fighting someone, and then he's like, "I'm gonna sue you," and that's, oh yeah, and then he just like shows him the lawyer pin, and then the guy's like, "I can't," like, and it's so crazy. Because like if you have like the opposite in the West and you have things like Better Call Saul, it's like, well, sue me. I'm a lawyer too. And it's like, well, I'll sue you then. I'll get a better lawyer. And he's just like, he just has superpowers. He's a lawyer, and that's also like what makes him have access to this whole underworld of like corrupt police and reporters and whatnot.
Yeah, absolutely. Both guns and trials have weight here, unlike
Yeah,
in most games or media from the West. But you know, I think that's a fantastic point because it gives everything that we're gonna about to say like much more weight. So yeah, he gets Okubo Shinpei acquitted. Then 1 month later, he gets accused again. I mean, it's kind of the evidence points to him being the person who stabbed his girlfriend and also burned down the house. And so this kind of breaks Yagami, and I thought that this was also a pretty cool like part of the story where you're like, okay, so this guy used to be a lawyer and now he's not a lawyer. Then why is that? And you also get shown this like the scene of Okubo being taken by the police and everything, but you don't really understand what's happening. And then you see how he interacted with Emi, who's the girlfriend that got killed, and how like everything feeds to him feeling so guilty, not only by having been partly responsible for Emi's death because he got him acquitted and then he blah blah blah, but also when we know what happened to his father, he knows that he has the weight of that upon himself as well.
yeah,
Like he's like, I tried so hard to like be a different lawyer, like to maybe I don't know if the word is like wash our name or you know like be something different, and I did the same thing,
yeah,
which is something that I always find pretty cool. When I mean they don't really frame it this way, but you know how sometimes knowing your future can lead you to try to avoid it, and then because you're avoiding it you commit it. You know
yeah,
how that happens. So
yeah.
that is something that I also found pretty cool. And yeah.
I think that overall that kind of like drives the whole story, and those are the most solid parts. I do think that there's one character. There are a couple of characters that for me like they most characters I think they serve the story. Like for example, Okubo as a like suspect and like his whole tragedy. He kind of like okay, I understand this is where they're going, and like he's not very stereotypical, but it plays a role. But the character of Fumiya Sugura, who
Mhm.
then is Emi's Chen plot twist, is
Yeah.
Emi's brother. I did not like him. Like I did not
Okay.
like that whole subplot. I thought that was weird. Like I felt like they needed a character there, but it felt like it was just trying to. I think that at that point it was maybe like too much articulation into the story.
I think I agree. I mean, I did like him like as a character, but if you remove him, nothing changes at all.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to say this. I wrote him down here as a member of the Millennial Parkour Thieves because that's how you get to know him first. Like they give you this rundown of Kamurocho and what's happening, blah, 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 and they tell you like there's this gang of parkour millennials.
And it's obvious that he's like Emmy's brother. Like there's a like
Super obvious.
he has to come from somewhere. Like that's what I didn't like. He's just so dropped into the story that he has to come from somewhere. He has to be someone's family. He has to be a victim of something around here. It's not like he just doesn't work for the like drug research company. Like it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I think I agree. I mean, I called it from a mile ago when I think when you see him meeting Shono for the first time and you see the anger behind him,
Yeah.
like you killed Amy. It's like, why do you care so much about this woman? And it's like,
Yeah.
okay, he's a
It's obvious, and I think that the same thing with the serial killer itself, the mole. I think that I didn't like the name, the mole, but it's okay. Like it's in the end, it's
Me neither.
just a name. But it was like, why the mole? Like because he's not telling people that he killed someone. So that's yeah. The never killer is the mole, and I also saw like that there's something weird with the whole thing of like blocking the eyes of people
Mhm.
because it doesn't make sense. Like that never added up. And I think that the fact that no one ever mentions that, like if this was a serial killer, like there has to be a reason why they're gauging people's eyes out. And
Oh, but there is a reason that they reveal at the end,
yeah,
which
yeah,
I
but no one is like, why is he doing that? Like this is very inconvenient. Like these people, it's not like they're disappearing and then they're like in like kind of like serial killer Dexter thingy. It's
Hmm.
like they get beat up in an alleyway and then they wind up with their eyes gauged out, and it's like this is suspicious. This is not like a pattern, and people are handing him out killers, and then obviously like you see it at the end, in the final showdown. So
Hmm.
that, and I think that, but it's okay because it's the whole mystery. Everything is so massive and it still lands. I'm not complaining. Like it's still really good because it's a massive feat to articulate all of this. Like you
Absolutely.
like the other thing that I think that I've seen do stuff like this and this size is like True Detective season one, and then with season two they fucked up. So it's like it won't even hold up in that case. And I think that here it kind of does, but it's you see that they have like a very strong point, which is kind of like the Yakuza connections and all that, and then the 89 thing, it's just like trying to be built around the fact that it gets discovered at the right time.
The comparison with True Detective is actually pretty on point because it's like, okay, you have these murders, which by itself, they're horrible. But then you see how it's all so much bigger.
Yeah,
And yeah, you're totally on point
and
there.
they mean
So,
something.
absolutely. Let's try to then get into the whole 89 mole thing to see if we can crack this case, Christian.
I
So,
Yeah,
go ahead, go ahead.
I think that, by the way, the way they show the institutionality around 89, the government, the Ministry of Health, like people not being able to do stuff, it was very well executed. Like that scale really shines through. Like everything adds up.
100%. And we'll actually go back to that point because I think that these guys have a criticism with all their games of institution and corruption, and think we'll get to it. I love that part. So yeah, so as we've mentioned before, the main case that you're trying to solve throughout the whole game is these bodies start to pop up. I believe that when the game starts, this is already the third body. Yeah, I do believe.
It is the third. Yeah, they have killed. I mean, obviously, it's like the fifth one because the first are like Emmy and the other
Mhm.
guy. But yeah, like it's the ones that are experimenting. There's been three Yakuza guys, and then there's this other Yakuza guy that actually gets the boys out and then goes for the trial. So yeah,
Correct. And so yeah, it's these bodies that pop up with their eyes gouged out, and so this you have this guy who's a detective for the Tokyo Police who's called Mitsuru Kuroiwa, who's investigating it.
he's voiced by Matthew Mercer. Not
Yes,
suspicious at all that some
not
random
at
police
all.
guy is being voiced by one of the greatest voice actors of the generation.
Yeah,
So.
I think that he's like third place, and the first place is like Nolan North and
And
Troy
Troy Baker,
Baker.
yeah, his other friends. The other two
He's
guys
like,
that he didn't get to play. The other two guys that didn't want to play Dungeons and Dragons with him. That's the list.
that is exactly what happened there.
He does a really good job, and I think that the way that they hide that he's the bad guy, I knew, like, that there's something going on with him, but obviously, like, until the end, I think okay. So let me get this out of the chest.
Yeah, sure.
My chest, like the end game, the last part where you have to kick his ass. Oh boy, this is obviously like the toughest boss in the whole game, and I did not enjoy those fights. They were too hard. He was way too tough. I didn't have enough items. I mismanaged my inventory because I didn't know that basically he was fucking invincible
Twice.
twice.
Yeah.
And I think that I did enjoy the way that the tone changes towards the end, but I wouldn't have seen it coming. Like this guy Kurowa is just at the end, he's just like a superhero, and it was like it was cool, but it could have flopped pretty terribly. Like he's just the bad guy at the end.
Absolutely. And I
He's
think it's
unstoppable.
interesting. Yeah, absolutely. Because we don't really get a why he's so like such an amazing killing machine. I don't think we know a
It's a
little bit
good
about his
job.
backstory. Yeah,
He's good.
exactly.
He's good at his
He's
job. That's it.
But yeah, I thought it was super interesting because at first you're like, okay, this is an asshole cop that's gonna be nagging me the whole game because he thinks I'm guilty or he thinks whatever, huh? And then you find out he's the mole, and then you find out he's been working with Hamura all this time because Hamura kind of like gets the clients and he does the assassinations. And when you see that side of him, it all turns, but his tenacity stays the same, which I thought was so cool because it kind of gives it a little bit more of an edge, a little bit more of a nuance, that tenacity that he has, you
Yeah.
know? And you also find out that the first person he killed supposedly is like somebody who ratted his boss out when he was starting as a cop. And also, I didn't get this from the game. I got it from the wiki, which is that he's like a corrupt cop as well. Like I mean, not only because he's a killer, but like he's been like
Think so?
no, but like he's been like leaking information to the Chojo clan as well. Like he's into all the pots like of corruption.
Yeah, I think that all the cops they have somewhat of a bad reputation in this game. He's not. I don't think he's ever presented as a super clean cop. It's just like someone who knows how to play the game,
Mm-hmm.
and like you already see like he's in bed with the health minister, and also he sees that he's in bed with the Yakuza. I think that for the last part, it just turns into an action movie. Like when they're gonna silence, like at the end, I understand that there is like they want to like okay crack the case, but at the end when this guy is just like fending off like four yakuza and just fucking killing them in broad daylight, and then he goes into the research center and kills like 20 more people, and it's like it's just too much. Like it just at that point it's just like an action movie because there's no way that he obviously like yeah he might delete all the evidence that associates him with 89, but he now killed 20 people.
Yes.
And I understand they're trying to basically clear the name of Okubo, but I'm pretty sure as well that they could be saying like, hey, let's not execute this guy just yet. Let's investigate it a little bit better because this cop just went haywire and killed like 20 people. That might. I think that it took a little too much suspension of disbelief for me not to think what the fuck is going on.
There's a part where he gets not killed, but he like they sent to kill him. Like the Ministry of Health says, like, okay, we need to kill him because he's a loose end, right?
Yeah.
The guy.
And that would be
And
the only way to clear the name of Okubo somehow.
correct. And in broad daylight, like in the middle of Kamurocho, he shoots like 3 guys. And then he goes to the ADDC to get Shono. And nobody within that interim asks themselves why this guy just shot 3 people. I mean, self-defense.
It could be self-defense, but then he's like things. Then they get to the research center, and then the cops there don't know anything, and then they're like trying to explain, and obviously the cops are fucking stubborn, and then they kick their asses, and then they're collaborating together at the very end. But it's at that point, it's already kind of like a dead end. Like I wasn't sure what they were looking for, like whatever, like which is okay, but like at the end it turns into an action movie, so it's okay. But at that point, if the game would have like kind of like the same tone, it's like it's over. Like we already have everything, like because it traded that we have to protect Shono, with Shono injecting himself and failing, and then his eyes going like color blue, and then just fucking dies, and then it's just a very dramatic ending.
Yeah.
But it's cool. I think that it was cool enough to kick ass. My only complaint was it was way too hard. Like the fight was just, I did not enjoy it. He killed me way too many times, and the mechanic of losing my health, it was kicking my ass. Like at that point, I was like, it was impossible to like move from one stage to the other, and the only solution the game offers is to do like a clean load to the beginning.
Oh no.
and it's like 2 hours. Like
No.
when the game says this is the end of the game, make sure to save. I was like, it's like it's always the same fucking same thing always happens to me. I think it's okay. This is the end of the game. It's telling me this is the end of the game. There's like 4 more hours. I finish it like at 3 a.m. You know,
Hmm.
like okay, let's go. And it was like okay, I'll go to bed at 1 a.m. It's like 3 a.m. It's like fuck.
But this is the first game because games do this where they tell you like, okay, the game's gonna end. If you have any side quests, do them now, right? But this is the first game where they literally say like, if you need some sleep, get
Oh.
it now. And I thought that was funny because I've
Yeah,
never seen that.
yeah, and it was like okay, let's see what, and it goes on, and I like something I respect a lot from games. Most games they have kind of like the big guns to the beginning and the middle, and the endings are kind of like the shittiest set pieces because, truth be told, it doesn't sell the game as much. Usually, it's late into production. Not the case here. Like the ending has some of the best action pieces, and it's really cool. And there's a lot of attention to detail, still to the very end, and it wraps up in a way that you're like, "This is cool."
Yeah. So just to sum up this thing, so that we're all on the same page. So it turns out that these people who have been killed have been kidnapped by Hamura and Kuroiwa, given to Shono so that he can do clinical trials. This first trial that got Okuo first
To
accused in
cure
the first place.
to cure Alzheimer.
To oh yeah, it's to also test a drug that passed the let's say animal testing and then wants to go into clinical testing, but they can't do it, so they have to do it in this clandestine way. And the first victim of this was the dementia patient. And so this is the part where I think that we get into this realm of institutional criticism and corruption, and how far are you willing to go to take something that is good, but then you have to like commit all these crimes in the process. Like there's a lot of there that we could unpack. So first of all, the inclusion of Japanese institutions and even American institutions
Yeah.
in the game is something that the Yakuza series began doing, I believe, from Yakuza 3 onwards, and it's something that I mean, the only other game that I remember seeing something similar, and now that I remember, it kind of clicks together. Is do you remember Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance?
Yeah.
Remember the last boss is like a politician.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's something like that, but less campy and less
I,
weird.
I don't think that there are some games that they try to have like s- these games are very matter of factly, and like in the sense that they are what they're about, just like 20 blocks where the mafia is doing whatever they want, and they take that same kind of like everydayness and they translate it to kind of like what's driving everything. So I don't think it's even like it's hard to compare with other games because in other games it's a metaphor, you know. It's
Hmm.
but here it's like it's literally that. Like if you ask me like what is the game about, it's like well the game is criticizing basically medical corruption. You know that's what the game is about, and it's not a metaphor. It's not like God of War in the sense like well the game is criticizing masculinity in the sense of laws. No, it's not. It's literally what's happening. Like
100%.
why is this guy doing that? It's like well because he thought he was following his father's footsteps, and then he decided not to be a lawyer.
And you know what's
Literally,
funny?
literally what happened.
And you know what's funny, that the simplicity of it doesn't detract from its genius, because it's still a pretty cool concept and a pretty cool thing,
Yeah.
right? Like because sometimes when you distill these things down to something like that, it's like, oh, this is kind of disappointing. But in this case, not at all. It's really really cool actually. But so there is this aspect of the, like, yeah, as you said, the corruption of the government, where you have this ministry that's supporting all these things with, I mean, there's even like a character called Kaoru Ichinose, who's a vice minister of health, and he's the one that like kind of hires Hamura and Kuroiwa to do all these things so that Shono can get his humans and kill them all.
And it's funny because like the layer of like world building is not it's not that deep. 89 means advanced drug 9 because they have tried it 8 other times that didn't work, and that was about to destroy the company. It's like what? Okay, that's it. Like there's no nothing to read beyond that. But that's actually what fucking happens in companies. It's that simple.
Yeah.
It's like they did that 8 times. It didn't work. they were going to close the research, and then they lied, and now 89 was the one that was about to work. And it had to work because the whole institution needed it to work. The
Exactly.
minister needed to spend that money. They needed to buy that real estate to give it to the Yakuza. The Yakuza needed that to work. They're all a bunch of corrupt people that didn't give a shit about ultimately human beings to begin with. So they basically were killing off their own people by testing them with the drug. There was some excuse why that system should persist. So, but it's all a show, like it just definitely there's no reason that 89 has to exist, because this it's not because this drug does not need to exist because Shono's parents died of dementia. It needs to exist because that's the business that they were expecting. So
You're right. Some of characters are driven by greed and corruption and everything, but at the same time, there are other characters which I find the more interesting ones are driven by a specific experience with Alzheimer's or with dementia
yeah,
that drives them
like Shono.
to exactly like Shono is, for example. I mean, I didn't really enjoy his character very much, but at the end when he reveals that, it's like, okay, this makes sense, like why you're so invested in this and why you took it to this level. And also, I didn't include him here, but I don't know if you remember um, Morita, the prosecutor. That's the main prosecutor. That's kind of he kind of um, ruins when you find the secret lab. He kind of ruins the fact that
Yeah,
Yagami could
he's
use
a
that.
bitch. He's a bitch.
Total bitch. But then you find out that like his brother committed suicide because he had to take care of their mother that had Alzheimer's, and it's like this whole thing. So that kind of colors the character's motivations in a way that's more interesting than just money.
It is cool. It is cool. Yeah. I mean, for those characters, yes. But overall, what ties everything together is this greed and this
Oh yeah.
institutional machine that can't be stopped, even if it's killing people. Like because the price is too high, too big to fail, kind of thing. Um,
I agree.
this is hard to pull off. I think that this game only does it because they're fucking good at what they do. Otherwise, it's impossible that a Western studio can do a game like this. They would turn it into a movie. It would be like a point and click adventure or some shit like that. Or
Yeah,
like
I
or like 89 would just make you like a serial killer or give you superpowers.
absolutely. I mean, I don't really see how this game could have made it anywhere else, and I'm just so glad it exists. Now, I did want to ask you this question. I think that we're kind of going towards the end, unless maybe we find out some kind of gem here, but whatever. Do you think that this game is also kind of criticizing the death penalty in some way? Because
Well, yeah, like it definitely has an opinion that this guy shouldn't get deep fried, even though they didn't know he was gonna, because there was some evidence like that could get him out. But like he was already, I think that no one, everyone gave up on. There's definitely a criticism because everyone
yeah,
gave up on Okubo once he was sentenced, and that wasn't the case. So there has to be a criticism. Like that's the situation. At some point they're like trying to prove him guilty, so he doesn't innocent, so he doesn't get the chair. I don't know how they kill people in Japan. I don't know if they cut off their heads with a katana.
that'd be epic though. But
I would be like, okay. I mean, that's
well, if that's how I'm gonna go.
exactly. If I have to choose, I think that there's definitely a criticism there, and also it's very
Yeah,
mature because once he gets out, once he gets released, it's not like, oh my god, my life is mine again. He's like still fucked up like this. It again because this game has very high attention to detail and they care about the characters. Once he's released, it's not like, oh look, Okubo just running marathons and he's now going to CrossFit and he's happy. He's fucking broken. So there's no turning back from that. So I think that I don't even think that's reading too much into it. Again, like everything I
oh
like
no,
about this game is
yeah,
just that it's right in your face what is happening. It's like right in your face what is criticizing, and it just goes beyond the uncomfortable. It just goes beyond the drama, and then it stays with like complex relationships after things that happen. I liked always to think about like explaining this. It's like in Game of Thrones when Jon tells his sisters that he's actually the son of he's actually a Targaryen. They before he says anything, they cut off to something else. Like they cut the shot there. He's like, I have something to tell you, and then the camera drops. And I think that's the main difference with this type of narrative, that in a Japanese setting, that he would say that to them in camera, and then they would follow up on how they now talk to each other, knowing this and bearing this knowledge and how it changes things. And that's what happens in this game. It's not like they killed. The game doesn't end like he kills Kuroiwa and then that's it. They go and check out on everyone, and everyone, it's pretty much the same, like, because that's life. It's like, yeah, I guess we're just gonna move on.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, yeah, like it gives us a like a more realistic turning out of how things actually turn out.
Yeah.
And I think that's pretty refreshing, because we're used to over the top, or we're used to, like, I don't know, like maybe shoehorning things in or whatever. And here it's just like, yeah, this is what happens. Although I do think that there's another thing that I love about this is that one of the good things that does happen to Okubo when he comes out is that this guy, like the let's say main reason for Fumiya Sugiura being here, Emi's brother, is that initially he wanted to like take revenge on Yagami, because of course he thought he was responsible for killing her sister, blah blah blah. But then he kind of comes around, and that's pretty cool. How you have this character who is initially going to kill, kind of what we were talking about before, where you can beat the shit out of each other and still be friends in the end. This is kind of similar in that way. And one of the cool things I thought when Okubo gets released is that he doesn't really have a lovey-dovey moment with Yagami. He has one with him, with Emi's brother, and I thought that was pretty cool as well, where they say like, okay, we're gonna go to her grave together, which in Japanese culture I believe is like a significant thing. I mean, not that in here it's not
like, wait, we don't give a shit. Like, we don't give a shit. We just go there for the kicks.
But I do believe that like they light some incense, and it's like a whole thing, right?
Sure.
And yeah, I think we've covered almost everything.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's something else that you wanted to cover.
No, not really. I just want to say that obviously, like, if people are watching this game, watching this show, then to this point, it means that they play the game. I really can't wait to play the next one. The trailer looks sick. I think that it's gonna be kind of like more of the good things. Like, now we're gonna criticize. I think it's in the trailer. Right? We know there's a killer that has been killing people for a long time, and then they're basically interrogating someone, or like someone's giving testimony at court, and this person is saying that yes, there's someone out there killing people because this corrupt system can't find them, and then they're like, wow, there's another killer on the loose. And I think it's gonna be like just cooler.
Yeah. I've also seen some reviews have started to pop up, which I've tried to ignore almost 100% of them. From the outside, it looks like there's kind of some divide on the story. Like, some people are for it, some people aren't. I don't really know who to believe anymore. Like,
I don't give a shit.
So yeah, I don't give a shit either. I'm just gonna go in as blind as I can, or as media black-clouded as I can, and just try to enjoy it and see if I like it. I mean, after playing so much games from these people, I don't see how they could fuck it up, but I won't really know until I play.
Like, and honestly, if they keep doing things the way they're doing, I think it's gonna be hard for them to fuck up. And I think if they pick it up where they left and they keep doing like more of the same, I'm gonna be happy.
Absolutely.
And I think that's the reason, like, this game didn't like shine that much in the West when it launched. It did shine in Japan. It sold a shitload of copies. Actually, like, the main character is super famous. It's
I forgot to mention that.
Former boy band singer. So he's kind of like a super big deal. This is the equivalent of Justin Timberlake starring a video game, voicing and acting as a character. So yeah, this is exciting.
By the way, I just wanted to mention one small trivia thing about this game. I don't know if you knew this, but the original person who was the face of Hamura, the Yakuza guy, was a real actor that got apparently, allegedly, he did some cocaine and they removed him from the game and they replaced his voice.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, man, it's
A
weird
true
because
Yakuza.
a true Yakuza, exactly. And then they go and remove him. It's like,
But they
come on.
left his face?
No. His face is removed and his voice was removed. Everything.
Okay. It wasn't supposed to be a different actor.
You exactly. You can actually go in and see the before and afters, and it's like a totally different guy. It's totally weird.
I'm gonna check that.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's really fun. I think I like the one that's now better, but I mean, I don't know. And of course, like you said, Takuya Kimura is
the new
the
one
guy.
is better. The new one is
100%.
100%. This is definitely a glow up. The other one is like generic old Japanese guy, and the new one is just like fucking kick ass.
Yeah, because this guy's face, the new one, has like a little bit of deviousness to it. He looks like a bad guy, and
It
that's
looks
cool.
like a bad guy, and the geometry of his face is like very different. The other guy is just like some old dude.
Okay, so I think I'll go first because I don't really have that much to say about what I'm playing, and I think you do. So I'll leave you to gush about that later. I'm playing Ghost of Tsushima Iki Island. This is a game that I thoroughly enjoyed when I was back in 2020 when it came out. I regret having played it then because if I would play it now, I would see I would see more of its glory in terms of like the PS5 thing, blah, blah, blah. But I mean, I'm still enjoying it in Iki Island as well. The story seems to be, I mean, it's not as interesting yet as the main one, and I don't expect it to be. It's a DLC in the end. What I'm expecting and what I am getting is more goodness out of this game, which is like the exploration, which is, I think, some of the best I've seen next to Breath of the Wild and stuff like that in terms of like the philosophy of how you explore. Because one thing that really makes me very disappointed, and it's partly my fault, but when you have a minimap, your eyes go directly to the minimap 90% of the time, and you don't really get to experience the world that has been created. Here, they took a special effort into not doing that, and I love it.
The whole thing with the win. I'm replaying it again, by the way, because I had a fresh save, which I kind of regret at this point. I really just want to play the the DLC, but I'm replaying it on PS5. The improvements are there, and it really feels next gen. The way that your sword works with the controller, it feels as if you're holding a sword. That's that cool. It sounds like a sword. It feels like a sword. The haptics are just amazing. And yeah, I'll probably like try to finish it again, but I have to pick up like some new games. I have to pick up some new games that are coming like next week. I want to give it a try to Death Stranding, the director's cut, see if it finally clicks. But I did pick up Other Wilds, not Other Worlds. Other Wilds is the exploration game that from a very indie studio. And I have to say, like, my story with this game is like, I think it was like last year, it was like, hey, everyone, can someone recommend me a game? And then a friend of mine, Gustavo, he was like, hey, you should play Other Wilds. I think it's the best game of the generation. I bought it, I played it. I played like 1 hour, and it was like, okay, this is cool, but it didn't click. Like I wasn't sure where to go, what to do. And then I don't even remember what else I was playing at that point, but I just basically didn't pay much attention. I picked it up again, like because I have a PS4 here in my office, like next to my monitor. So whenever like I have some free time, I'm always like turning it on. And if I have 15 minutes, I play a game or something in between meetings while I work. And it just clicked. I have to say that it's a game that it blew me away. It's probably one of the most interesting games I've ever played. I finished it with the real ending, and I just don't even want to talk about it that much because everything that happens in this game is emergent gameplay. Everything that you discover it by yourself, and it's as if that feeling of exploration in Breath of the Wild, when you discover things and you read things from the environment, someone actually turned it into a game and tied like an incredible mystery around it. And that unfolds in this archaeological way where you go around just not even solving puzzles because they're not necessarily puzzles, but you're just like interacting with the environment, which is an entire galaxy. So it's just insane. You also played it, right, Juan?
Yeah, I finished it earlier this year, and I also found it a very unique experience. Like the way each planet behaves differently, and the way you have to like crack a puzzle, but it's not like you said, it's not a puzzle in the traditional sense. It's more of a mental puzzle. Like okay, this planet behaves like this. this is what I gotta do. Like
Yeah,
every
like if I do this, will this work? Or like I learned this before. What happens if I use this knowledge here and then you're transported into like there are some times where you're just like, wow, it worked. Like it's one of those moments where you're actually you feel as you're a character discovering things and you're like, it worked. Look where I am. I'm finally here. Like there are a few set pieces where I'm just like blown away, and it's like I think that the first time I landed into one of the planets, the one that's all like it's all water, and then it has like a tornadoes inside.
that was cool.
I just entered it. Like I didn't. I mean, I had to. I have to explain something in order to like come across as like why I was. So this is kind of like a little spoiler, but I as I just crossed the atmosphere and I saw what was inside, I was like, wow. And that's the game. Wow, you just like and solving the mystery. I got obsessed with it. I only had to look for help twice because I was definitely stuck, and I thought that okay, I don't. I'm missing. It's not like I'm missing information in the game. I'm missing things to click, and I think I if you search for clues in Reddit, Reddit does a good job as if you're asking someone. Because I didn't know you had finished it. Otherwise, I would have been like, "Hey, do you remember like what am I supposed to?" And there were a few puzzles that I was like, I probably wouldn't been able to figure it out. But even when I figured it out, it was through kind of like small clues. And once I did it, it was like, wow, I can't believe the ending is just insane.
Yeah, no, it's definitely one I recommend. I believe it got announced a DLC, didn't it?
Yes, there's a DLC coming in September, so that'll be fun. I don't know what the DLC will be about. Probably a little bit more of the same, but super excited to play that as well.
Yeah, no.
Hopefully,
Yeah,
it's like more planets or something like that.
Yeah, that'd be really cool. I think that the thing that really I thought it was really ingenious is that there's a lot of talk now with Deathloop and how it's like a loop and blah blah blah. And when I saw that the progress in Deathloop apparently is information instead of like actual progress, physical progress, that is what this game is. Like you have this loop. How long is the loop?
22
16
minutes.
22 minutes. Okay. And so yeah, you collect information. The information gets stuck to your ship, and then you can kind of figure out the puzzle here. There's kind of different storylines that ultimately connect, or sometimes they don't.
It's all connected.
Yeah. And it's pretty cool because you feel that even though this thing keeps happening again and again, I am progressing here, and there is something that's happening that's overarching all these other things. So
you played Deathloop already?
No, I have not played it, and I am very curious because the reviews by the outlets that I don't care about are like 10s, and the reviews by the people who I care about are like not so good. So I'm like, what's happening? I'm very curious.
Ooh, imagine that. I think that like if it's kind of like this, that every time it restarts, probably will be original. But I did see like a few like pointers of like, oh, here you can have a gun. And if it's one of those games where like you have to memorize where to go and to get a specific gun in order to do stuff, I'm probably not gonna be that excited about it. But this one was amazing. Like I'm really glad I played this game. Can't wait for the DLC.
Yes. And this has been the end of our Spoilercast. First Spoilercast with the sir over here. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you enjoyed the game. If you got this far, I'm guessing you played it, because if not, why would you be here? Maybe you're one of those people that you're too lazy to play the first one, but you want to get into the second one. That's maybe the case. And if that is the case, then you're probably disappointed because we didn't really cover the thing start to finish. So I'm sorry about that. But we didn't really want to do that anyway. So I hope you enjoyed it. We will continue to do Spoilercasts when we can of the games that are really, really amazing and that really bring us to do this. Please check out Christian's podcast, which is called
Hammerspace. You can go to hammerspacepodcast.com and check out the videos.
Correct. And here, of course, we would appreciate your support. If you can like this video, subscribe, share it with a friend. If you want to comment on something that you liked about Judgment, something you think we missed, or whatever it is, we'd love to hear from you. And if not, we will see you on the next episode of NGXP, New Game Experience.